Right, so there are some things we have to talk about when it comes to Blade. So this is the extended edition, which I will do in some cases when I need to talk about some more things, and I also have to put out spoiler alert. There will be some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and you want to hear my opinions about the movie, then you go and check out the original review. Otherwise, this is the extended review where I go into more details on specific things. Blade's entrance. When you're going to, be invested in a character, there is always a good idea to make them be awesome. What makes Blade a little bit different is his first appearance. We all know the appearance, the guy who's being taken to a vampire disco and realizing that he is the dinner, and then he tries to crawl out of there, and then he just stumble across Blade with his black coat looking awesome with sunglasses on for some reason. And every vampire start backing away. It's the Daywalker, they say, and Blade just standing there, and then he just goes to town and whoops everybody's asses. Now this is of course a cool scene. The thing is, it has nothing to do with the rest of the plot of the movie. If you just scrap this entire thing, it doesn't affect anything that happens later. They talk about him, with the vampires, Vidudokier and stuff like that, but still it doesn't have anything to do with the story of Blade. But this is basically the same thing with Sergio Leone did for a few dollars more. When he introduced the two main characters, Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood. Actually, so the first 10 minutes of that movie has nothing to do with the plot whatsoever. He just wanted to show how awesome these two characters was. This is basically the same thing done with Blade, and it is very rarely done. I think it should be done more often because it just shows how cool they are. The Bond movies also have a tendency of doing this. The original ending. As a bonus feature on the Blade DVD is the original ending to the movie. And to be fair, it is a pile of shit. And we should be all very, very, very thankful to the great people who was the test audience for Blade, because they resoundingly said, this is shit, change it. Because the original idea was for Deacon Frost to become a blood tornado or something like that, not having a sword fight with Wesley Snipes. It's also worth pointing out that while it probably, if they would have worked a little more on the effect, it probably would have looked serviceable, but it would have aged terribly. It would have aged absolutely awfully. So I'm really glad I didn't do that, because that would have affected how we would look at the movie. It probably would not have been as successful as it was if it would have had that shitty ending. So thank you, test audience. Sometimes you can save a movie, but it rarely happens. Scenes that makes no sense. Let's talk about this scene. Blade is walking around and he meets Deacon Frost. This is sort of in the middle of the movie. I love sequences when the villain and the hero meet each other and they have, they have a bit of a war of words. You know at this point it's not going to be, a fight between them or something like that. It's just simply going to be, them talking to each other. And this is good. It's pretty well written, and it's a good scene. There is one problem, however. It's in the middle of the fucking day, and they have solved this in some weird way that Deacon Frost is having skin sun lotion or something like that on him. Wait, what? Do you mean that vampires can survive in the sun if they have sun lotion on? It's super weird. I mean, he stands in the shadows, I think, but nevertheless, this gotta be pretty risky. I mean, why didn't you just have this moment, you know, sort of in that night, or in a building or something like that? This is stupid, because if this would have worked, then why doesn't every vampire walks around with you know, sun lotion on themselves, and so they don't have to turn into burn up and die. Speaking of burning up and die, there is one more sequence that is sort of in the same vein, and that is when Deacon Frost and his lady companion kidnaps Udo Kier, who is sort of the head of the vampires. Udo Kier, by the way, who still hasn't played the main character in the movie, B, being a good guy in a movie, C, surviving a movie. I'm still waiting for this, Udo. Can you do this? So he's taken down to the beach and is to experience the sunrise and his ultimate demise. This is a very good scene, apart from two things. First thing, the effects looks absolutely shit and atrocious, and it's awful. The second, Deacon Frost and his lady companion are having biker helmets. What? Biker helmets? First you have sun lotion, then you have biker helmets, and I don't know, but this is really strange. So you mean that you can survive as a vampire outside facing a sunrise just because you had motorcycle helmets on or skin cream? I don't know. These two scenes just makes me, huh? I always looked at them and thinking, what am I missing here? What am I missing? The bizarre thing is also the fact that none of these sequences has any bearing on the other Blade movies. They never refer to that this is possible in any way. It's just weird. Because what we see, what the vampires feel when they get in contact with sunlight, is basically if you would get in contact with fire, they start, you know, burning instantly. I mean, there is a scene in Blade 2 when Ron Perlman tries to stick his hand out into sunlight, and he sort of tries to hold it there, but it burns through his skin, and he is wearing gloves. So I mean, it doesn't work. It's really, really odd casting decisions. So we've discussed how awesome Blade is and how awesome Wesley Snipes is as Blade. This is all very good. But New Line Cinema did have two other suggestions for Blade, and that is Lawrence Fishburne and Denzel Washington. Now, both of these men are better actors than Wesley Snipes. There are a few people who disagree with that. But would they have worked as Blade? No. They would have been too serious. It would have turned the movie, you know, a couple of notches down on the silly scale, and it wouldn't have made it wouldn't have stand out as good as it did. One of the key reasons why this movie also works is because Wesley Snipes understood the material. He knew that this what kind of movie this was and what kind of performance he had to put on to make it work. It would, however, have worked, considering that the mad bastards on New Line Cinema actually had the idea of having LL Cool J. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! Imagine if they would have gone with it. I can seriously say that if LL Cool J would have played Blade, we would have placed Blade today in the same category as Steel and Batman and Robin. That is how bad it probably would have been. LL Cool J is a pretty bad actor, but he does have some charisma and he has some charm. Blade does not need charm. You have to get him in the right type of movie. This would not have been it. Imagine LL Cool J as Blade. The only person I can think of that could have worked as Blade apart from Snipes is probably Samuel L. Jackson. Granted, he's a bit older than Snipes, but he could have sort of played a sort of more grisly, seasoned veteran Blade. It could have worked. That's the only person I think who sort of would have nailed the character. But apart from that, nope. Casting decision perfectly made. So that was the extended edition of the review for Blade. See you next time. The Wikstrand is signing out.